The number 200 wash for coarse aggregates test procedure, described in Section 5-694.146 of the MnDOT Concrete Manual, determines the amount of material finer than the number 200 sieve on coarse aggregates or the material retained on a number 4 sieve. This test procedure is used for determination of aggregate quality of grading materials and materials incorporated into concrete or bituminous products. After a representative sample of coarse aggregate material is obtained and reduced, if necessary, it is dried to a consistent weight and measured. The sample is then washed by hand and the excess water is poured over a number 200 sieve. The washing process is repeated until the excess water becomes clear. The now clean sample is then dried to a consistent weight and measured. The difference in weight before and after washing determines the amount of material finer than the number 200 on the coarse aggregate sample. Samples with little to no difference in weight are considered to be cleaner because they contain less fines or material passing the number 200 sieve. Clean coarse aggregates are more desirable during the production of concrete and bituminous products, and for grading materials used to promote drainage, such as open graded aggregate base or OGAB. Too much fines or material passing the number 200 sieve on coarse aggregates will reduce the structure and prevent adhesion of binder materials during the production of bituminous and concrete products. For example, coarse aggregates that are considered dirty will create a weak bond between the aggregate and cement paste during the production of concrete, resulting in weak and brittle concrete. Understanding the amount of fines on coarse aggregate helps predict the quality, performance, and integrity of its final product. For this procedure, you will need an electronic scale sensitive to 0.1 grams, number 16 and number 200 sieves, brushes for cleaning sieves and pans, pan or bowl of sufficient size to contain the sample covered in water, spatula for stirring or agitating the sample, and a stove or oven. Testing procedure for number 200 by washing. The MnDOT Schedule of Materials Control defines the minimum testing and sampling rates required for materials based on their application or use. Secure a representative sample following the procedures defined in Section 5-692.100 of the Grading and Base Manual, and reduce sample size to no less than 6 pounds for aggregates retained between the 5-inch and 8-inch sieves, and no less than 10 pounds for aggregates retained between the 1-inch and number 4 sieves. Dry the sample to a consistent weight and measure to the nearest 0.1 gram of the sample mass or weight. Once the material has been dried to a consistent weight to the nearest 0.1 gram, place the material into a pan or bowl of a sufficient size to contain the sample covered with water. Add sufficient water to cover the sample. If necessary, add a detergent, dispersing agent, or other wetting solution to the water to assure a thorough separation of the material finer than the number 200 sieve from the coarser particles. Agitate the sample with sufficient vigor to result in complete separation of all particles finer than the number 200 sieve from the coarser particles. Pour the wash water slowly over the nested sieves, arranged with the coarser sieve on top, taking care to avoid pouring the coarser particles on the sieve as much as possible. Repeat the washing process until the wash water becomes clear. Wash the material retained on the sieves back into the sample and pour off the excess water. Dry the sample to a consistent weight and measure to the nearest 0.1 gram of the sample mass or weight. determining testing results for number 200 by washing. The difference between the original sample mass and the washed sample mass is the loss in washing of the material passing through the number 200 sieve. To calculate the percent of material passing the 75 micrometer number 200 sieve by washing as follows.